Okay, and the next song is Night Drive Loneliness. And this one to me is the most sort of, most directly cinematic. For me, a lot of the feeling of it was kind of David Lynchian, Americana. There's sort of the mid-century guitar sound and the imagery of the, maybe there's even mention of Blue Velvet. So how did this one come about? Was that sort of the intention from the get-go with the song, or did it just sort of grow into this sort of cinematic thing?
Well, Night Drive Loneliness started again at my home studio, and a lot of the vocals in the song were done in some of the first takes that Cheryl did with a handheld mic. Later we came up with a bridge, and I think there were two different coarse chord, and we messed around with those. It was one of those songs that we fussed over for a while to get to where we finally felt it was right. But and then Shirley, I think you recorded that Rain in your phone in Scotland, right?
My first engineering job is on, you can hear it on this record.
No way, really? Really?
Field recording.
Field recording by Shirley Ann Manson.
Also, Night Drive Loneliness was kind of written in pieces. We weren't really sure how this was all going to fit together.
But the key to the song really came from
The guitar playing.
Of course, yeah. Duke's monster guitar riff at the start. It is a great guitar riff. Sort of reminds me of a Neil Young riff in a way. It's kind of epic sounding.
Mid-century.
But it was, the verses I think were all from the first take that we did, the first couple of takes we did. And there's a really vulnerable kind of intimate quality to Cheryl's vocal. And again, that's what became the key to the song, because it kind of sets up the sort of big choruses.
And lyrically, you discuss the things that you're leaving in the closet, kind of, the lipstick and the heels and the...
We're not going to talk about that.
Duke doesn't want me to talk about that.
You promised you wouldn't bring that up.
I promised I wouldn't bring it up. Actually, I had this title which I wanted to use, which originally was called Night Drive Sadness, and it was inspired by a letter that a young girl in Nizhny Novgorod handed me when we were leaving the club that we'd played. And I read this letter from this young girl, and I think I read a bit of it to the boys, because I was like, wow, this letter's so incredible. And what it was she was saying, you're in my town, you're in Nizhny Novgorod in Russia, and you're going to see all these landmarks, and you're going to just think of them as these beautiful landmarks. You won't think much more of it. She goes, but I just want you to know that these particular landmarks mean this to me. And she told us a beautifully, elegantly written piece about all the things that had happened to her either at these landmarks or near them. And it was basically about all this sort of difficult things she had endured in her life up to that point. And we were driving through the night on our way back to the hotel, and it was sort of dark and cold, and it just felt so bleak to read this eloquent letter from this young girl. But that's where the sort of lyrics were inspired by, because I wanted to touch on the things that have hurt me the most, so that when you get into your car at night, which I think many of us do, it's when your sort of brain is sort of flits through all these things that have happened sometimes, when you're feeling melancholy, you're driving around and just thinking about some of these things that happened to you in your life.
It's interesting that it was born from deep in the heart of Russia, because it feels so American. Certainly, like growing up in LA, one lives in one's car. Whenever I was upset, as a young man, I would drive Mulholland or whatever and contemplate how miserable I was about being an adolescent. So,
I totally agree with your analysis, with your take on the song, what it feels like, what it sounds like.
Cool. All right.
So we'll probably use that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that'll be incorporated into all the press interviews we do from now on.